In this video, our SAP Analytics Cloud product experts will demonstrate the main features of our new release. Feel free to jump straight to the features you're interested in by using the timestamps in the description below. Let's dive in and hear from our SAP Analytics Cloud product experts.
Hi, I'm Ali, a product manager for SAP Analytics Cloud, and I'll be walking you through our demo today. We're introducing a new feature that allows admins to turn off the ability for users to upload files. So let's get started. Here I'm logged into my Analytics Cloud, and as you can see, I have the ability to select and upload a file. Now, if the admin disables this feature for me and saves the change, the upload file button disappears and I won't be able to upload a file. I also won't be able to upload and send a file through discussions. That wraps up our demo. Thanks for listening.
Hello, my name is Thierry Brunet. I am Product Manager, and today I present you a new feature for SAP Predictive Planning delivered in Q1 2023. Since last year, you can insert predictive steps into multi-actions, but it was only possible to save the predictive forecast done in the future. With SAP Predictive Planning, it is possible to apply the predictive model on data of past period, and thus get the forecast for this past period. The planner can easily compare the actuals value with forecasted value for this past period and get more trust in the predictive model. Today, it is now possible to have this option inside a multi-action. Let's see this in action. In this story, the table shows travel expense per line of business until 2022. I would like to estimate these expenses for 2023 and compare the actuals with the values forecasted until 2022. I have prepared a predictive scenario that I have already trained. Here we see the forecasted values for line of business, sales and marketing. As I want to automate the process to refresh my story, I create a multi-action. For this demonstration, it contains one step defined like this. I select the predictive model I need in my predictive scenario, the version where I want to save the forecast, and I tick this new option to also include the forecast for the last period. Go back to my story. At the top, I have added a button to run my multi-action. Thus, run it in the background. After several seconds, I am notified that the multi-action has run successfully. I just must refresh my story to see in version forecast, past and future, the forecasted values for 2023 and for the past period. I can now compare my actuals with the forecasted values. This concludes the demonstration. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Vivek Verma. I am the product manager for SAC. As part of Q1 QRC update, I would like to share the latest innovation that we have released, ability to sort members in filters. User now has the ability to sort members in filter in alphabetical order, whether it is ascending or descending. If it is a time dimension, then it can be earliest to latest, latest to earliest, and custom sort orders. Let's get into the demo. Users can set sorting in design time as well as in view time. In design time, users can define custom sort orders which can be used in the view time. Here we have time dimension. We can sort it as earliest to latest, latest to earliest, or add a custom sort order. Now let's move into a city dimension. Again, here we have the option to maintain it as a default order, ascending, descending, or custom sort order. Let's add custom sort order. Here you can see I have defined a custom sort order. Now let's look at it at a view time. And city, here we can choose a custom sort order, ascending or descending. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tobias Müller. I'm part of the product management team of SAP Analytics Cloud, and today I would like to show you the improvements we made for selecting Data Warehouse Cloud models in your SAC stories. Now let's start by simply creating a new story, and while doing that, very important, you have to select the optimized design experience, since this change is just available in our new experience here. Once inside the story, you can now add data here, and so important here, select data from an existing dataset or model. In this model picker dialog here, you can now see Data Warehouse Cloud connections on the left side in the panel, and here you can simply select the Data Warehouse Cloud instances, tenants, and just browse the different spaces and artifacts you are assigned to. You now have to, for example, select variables if these are defined in Data Warehouse Cloud models, and simply add this model now to your story and start creating additional visualizations on top. The goal here is to really make Data Warehouse Cloud models feel much more native and integrated, and make it as easy as possible to leverage them as part of your stories.
Hello everybody, my name is Bettina Denonville. I am Product Manager in SAP Analytics Cloud for Data Analyzer. In the next minutes, I will present you the new improvements as part of the QRC Q1 release. We ship a new Data Analyzer with new features, an improved user experience and an optimized architecture. Just to highlight a few of the upcoming features before I jump into the live demo. On the table, we have introduced lazy loading, drag and drop, an adaptive table layout, and sort icons on the column headers for quick access. A new filter function is available to support a one-dimension filter, and a new dimension filter dialog with additional functionality like the clipboard feature is available. The usability of the Builder panel has been improved, as well as the support of the two structure queries. And the new Data Analyzer can now be opened from a table visualization in an optimized story. Now I'm going to jump into the live demo. After the next update, when you enter the landing page, you'll be prompted with the important information about the new Data Analyzer release. I'm gonna pick up a BW query from my recently used list. Here you see the new layout of the Data Analyzer. The toolbar has been updated, and you see that the export functions have been added, as well as the capability to activate and deactivate BACS conditions. The default filter of a BW query is now presented immediately in the central filter line, and the widget filter on table level has been removed. Let's take a look at the table features. Drag and drop is now working either on the same axis or between the axes. You see the adaptive table layout and that the columns are no longer expanded over the whole screen. The sort icons, which indicates the default sorting, ascending or descending. A new filter function is available, which is called filter members, which gives you the option to set a one-dimension filter. Here you see calendar year month is filtered, but sales market is not filtered. Let's take a look at the new member selector. You see that you can search by attributes, you can add attributes to the member list, you can select, deselect all members, and the clipboard feature for copy-paste filter values. Lazy loading is enabled for a smooth scrolling experience. Now let's take a look at the Builder panel. First, you see a new side navigation bar where you can open and close the Builder panel or the Styling panel, where you can change the number format of your measures. The slider here still gives you the ability to expand the Builder panel. And here, very interesting is that display attributes are now presented underneath the associated dimension and can be added via drag and drop or by using the checkbox. And can be reordered by drag and drop. To change the presentation, you can use the context menu. And in case of ID and description, you will see that from now on ID and description is separated in two columns. For BW Live, the uncompounded key display is now supported. Let me choose a compounded characteristic. You see the full compounded key, but once the key father is filtered, you see the uncompounded key display. Here on the rows axis or on the column axis, you see that from now on the totals position and the parent nodes of hierarchies can be arranged independently. And we did some improvements for the compact display. So here you see the universal display hierarchy is activated with some improvements like the expand to dimension or more drill capabilities directly on the table, like collapse or expand to dimension. Last but not least, I'm going to show you how to open the data analyzer from an optimized story. This is an optimized story with a table widget where you can enable data analyzer. And the story viewer then can open data analyzer from this table widget. Here you see that different filters are set on story level. There is a page filter and a measure input control. And you see when opening data analyzer, all filters are brought over and presented in the central filter line. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hi, my name is Arno and I'm a product manager of SAP Analytics Cloud. With the upcoming QRC release, we are going to support the difference from calculation for models based on a live connection to SAP Business Warehouse. The difference from aggregation shows the difference in the value of a measure between a starting date and a target date that is calculated from a specific number of time periods before or after the starting date. This feature enhances story calculations by bringing new functionality and closes existing feature gaps between models based on SAP HANA Live and SAP BW Live data sources. Let's have a look at the feature. I'm in the optimized design experience in SAP Analytics Cloud. My table already displays the calendar year month as well as the sales volume. Now I want to know how my sales volume performed in the last periods. Therefore, I'm going to add a calculation to my table. I click on Add Calculation and the calculation editor opens. Here I can select the difference from calculation, give it a name and select between the different measures and the different time dimensions. In my case, I leave it as it is. In the lower part of the dialog, I can define the start date and the end date. For the start date, I can choose between the current time interval, current date, or select the member. I choose current time interval. For the end date, I have also different options. I can choose between the previous n time intervals, previous quarter, previous year, and so on. I choose previous n time intervals and define n by 1. After confirming my selections by clicking on OK, the calculation gets automatically added to the table. As you can see, I'm currently working on the year level, but as soon as I drill down to either the quarter or the month, the calculation gets automatically adapted to the given drill down. That's it from my side. Thanks for watching.
We have added continuous improvements in 3 areas for the new model. Firstly, in the formula editor of the modeler, we've added support for 3 new measure formulas: year-on-year, compound annual growth rate, and simple moving average. We have also added the ability now to detect and add missing currency rates for measures, and we have added threshold support for models with account dimensions at runtime.
Hello, my name is Scott Godfrey, and I'm one of the product managers with SAP Analytics Cloud focused on planning. And I'm going to spend the next few moments talking to you about some of the new features we have coming as part of our Q1 2023 QRC release. Now, I'm very excited about this first capability. It's a very highly requested feature in terms of data actions, and that is the ability to define trace points, so essentially debugging capabilities. You can do that in line within the construction of the data action now. And what you'll be able to do is define trace points before or after any data action step. And within advanced formula steps, you can define individual trace points on data statements or on delete statements. Now, once you set up your trace points, you'll be able to run the trace directly within the data action editor. Then you can use the table that's included in line in the tracer to navigate between the trace points and see the data changes. Now, something to note, the data action tracer does make use of an explicit private version to capture the trace results. What this means is that you do have the ability to consume that private version in a story if you wanted to see the changes, so you can track the changes across the trace points within a story. And also the other thing to note is that anytime you run the tracer, including in the context of the data action editor itself, the results of that are still visible within the data action monitor. So you can see the specific runtimes for individual steps for any execution, including in the context of the tracer. So we're really hopeful that this capability will significantly reduce the overall time to develop and troubleshoot data actions going forward. So with that, let's jump over and see data action tracing in action. So now when I open the data action editor, I have this new tracing button on the toolbar. If I click that button, I'll get a side panel that will slide out, indicating to me any trace points or how to define trace points if I don't already have some defined. I can define a trace point before or after any data action step by just hovering over the line and then clicking, right, to set the trace point. So once I've clicked those, you'll see I have my trace points on the right. But then also within advanced formulas, I can set trace points on individual lines. So I can set trace points on any data statement or delete statement. In this case, I'm going to set one on a data statement that's in my for each. And because it's in a for each, it actually wants me to filter further the conditions under which the trace will occur, right? So specific members of the time dimension, I'm going to select January and February in this instance. And then one other thing I want to show here is that we have a little bit different treatment for a scenario where we're using a variable member, right? So I can trace the data statement that's using the variable member. I'm going to do that in this instance just so I can illustrate what the variable member tracing looks like, because it's a little bit different than most data statements. So now we have our trace points all set up. And I now have the ability to execute the trace by clicking the run button. When I do that, I'll get prompted for the parameters that I want to pass to the trace. That would be parameters that would pop up in a story as well. Mine are already set, so I can click run. And now what it's doing is executing the trace, and it's using an explicit private version, a unique explicit private version to perform the trace. So my trace is now complete. See that I have a couple of other trace points listed because that's the instantiation of the time filters as trace. For any trace point, I'll see in the watch area the parameters for that step. And for any data statement, I'll see the calculation scope, right? So if I wanted to see any individual elements that have been iterated over on a given step for the advanced formula, I could do that. Now, to see the trace results, I click on the trace point, click Show Table, and then I have a table that pops up in line that I can customize rows and columns and filters to watch the changes as I iterate through the trace points. And it's as simple as me clicking the next trace point, and then I'll see all data changes across the trace points I'm looking at in the table as they change between those individual trace points that I've defined. So in this case, as I navigate through, I see the carry forward for my AR calculate. And then the last thing I want to show is that when I have a variable member calculation, in this case the AR turnover ratio, the variable member uses a different construct for tracing. I have this lookup table. When I click the lookup table, I'll see the variable member values pop up. And again, this is because, of course, the variable member is an intermediary calculation and its results are not persisted like other data results are. So it's not written to the private version explicitly. Okay, so that's the data action tracing capability coming with the Q1 2023 QRC release. We have a major new enhancement in the calendar as part of this release, and that is the introduction of an explicit calendar administration mode or role. So this is a new right that can be granted to any role, and it's automatically granted to any administrators. And if you have this right and you were to go into the calendar, you now have a new toolbar button that you can toggle on the admin mode. When you do that, you'll get a very clear set of visual indicators that you're in admin mode. But the admin mode will then display all calendar tasks irrespective of whether you are a participant in those. And you can make modifications on any task, right? Any task or process. So this is to address an issue with process management previously, where it could be very difficult to see all tasks in a given calendar, even for the administrator themselves. This admin mode now alleviates that. So with that, let's jump over and see this in action. So if we just start here in the roles, you'll see that I get two new rights that I can grant. That is the calendar admin itself, and below it the schedule publication, right? So if I want to allow the calendar admin mode for a role, I toggle that on. If I want to allow manipulation of scheduled publications or to see scheduled publications, I would then toggle that second one on, right? So I would toggle both on. Of course, administrators themselves get these toggled on automatically. So we now jump over to the calendar. Of course, you'll see that I'm not in admin mode right now. I can see my own process hierarchy that I'm a participant in. But if I were to toggle on the admin mode, you'll see I have an orange banner indicating very clearly that I'm in admin mode. And I now see this new Q2 OPEX forecast hierarchy that's visible to me that previously was not visible to me because I'm not a participant in it. And of course, I have the ability then to make any kind of changes that I want to this process hierarchy while I'm in the admin mode. So if I just were to change the start and end dates and update that, wanted to cascade that to the children, I could do that. And those changes would be reflected. So again, this is the new calendar admin mode write that can be assigned. It's available with the Q1 2023 QRC release. We're making some enhancements to the planning panel as part of our Q1 2023 QRC release. Namely, we're going to allow table interactivity while the planning panel is raised. So up until this point, one of the biggest usability challenges with the planning panel is that when you activated the planning panel, you no longer had the ability to drill or change the state of the table. And what that meant was you had to ensure that you had the correct drill states on elements in the table prior to raising the planning panel. But with the Q1 release, we're lifting that restriction. And now you can collapse or expand the drill state, set the drill level, display or hide unbooked members, or show or hide rows or columns. And as you make those changes, the recommendations for spreading will automatically change dynamically based on the change in the table state. So with that, let's jump over and see this in action. Okay, so now if I pull up the planning panel, you'll see that I have only drilled one level in my hierarchy, and as a consequence it's telling me that I can only distribute to members of the same level. But I now have the ability to drill while the planning panel is expanded, and I'll get new options as I do that. So in this case, I'll get the option to distribute among the children of the product dimension, or if I drill on the time, I'll get the ability to distribute among date members. And then of course, if I just were to say I'm going to change the allocation to the products to be 50-50, of course it would apportion the data as expected. So in this release, we're introducing a new table toggle to control the display of data point comments. And this is really about improving overall story performance or giving additional options for the story builder to improve performance. So in the event that you might have multiple tables on a given canvas, for example, you may not want all of those tables to display indicators for data point comments or the commenting column. And this way you can control that setting at the table level. Now the setting will control the display of cell-based comments and commenting columns, but it will exclude dimension comments. Those would still appear regardless of what this toggle setting is. And just note that any existing stories or existing tables, this toggle will be enabled by default. But going forward, any newly created tables, this toggle will be disabled by default. And if you want to display data point comments, you'll need to enable the toggle. So with that, let's jump over and see this in action. Okay, so you'll see that I have a table here. I've got a dimension comment surfaced, and I also have a data point comment in my cell here, indicating that my sales are going to increase, or my quantity sales should increase later in the year. You'll see that if I disable the commenting mode icon in the story, of course the comment goes away. And now we'll edit the table and we'll pull up this new toggle. You'll see that in my table here, this toggle is enabled, allow data point comments. If I toggle that setting off, then my data point comment indicator goes away, despite the fact that my commenting mode is still enabled. So I can toggle that on or off in the story. It's not going to affect whether the data point comments are displayed. Only this setting will drive that. So again, this is the allow data point comment toggle, available with the Q1 2023 QRC release. We're introducing some enhancements to our cross-model copy step within data actions this quarter. And that is the ability to uniquely define the source hierarchy and the target hierarchy when I match dimensions. So when I take my source dimension, I drag it into my target dimension for mapping, I pull up the rule builder, I now have the ability to uniquely select the source hierarchy coming from the source dimension and the target hierarchy in the target dimension that I'm working with. And depending on the hierarchies that I select, the corresponding matched elements in those two dimensions will automatically be used to define the copy rules. So this provides, of course, increased flexibility for these cross-model copy scenarios, whereas previously we would always use the default hierarchy. Now you can select the specific hierarchies that you would like to use, and you can view the individual rules that are generated, and you can make changes to any of those rules. So with that, let's jump over and see this in action. So just to illustrate here, this is a fairly simplistic cross-model scenario. You see I'm using the same target and source model. I'm going to look at my product dimension. Here I have 27 rules auto-generated based on the primary hierarchy mapping to the primary hierarchy. Okay, so you'll see I have this source and target now. If I change my target to the premium product line, you'll see now that it only generates 4 rules because my premium hierarchy only has 4 leaf elements for matching. But this matching and source and target will work on any dimension. So if I were to, for example, exit out, look at my time dimension, I could do that as well. I'll just save this change. So I'm copying from my primary to my premium. In the story, if we just were to flip over and look at the premium hierarchy for a sec here, you'll see my Supreme bikes got 4 elements. These are the 4 that will match, as not surprisingly. We jump back over to the primary. And what we'll do is go ahead and run this data action. And of course, what's happening is that it's going to use the source product hierarchy, the primary product hierarchy, and copy to the Supreme or the premium product hierarchy. So I switch back over again to my premium product hierarchy. What I'll see is that, yes, all the data has been copied between the 2 years, or rather the first 3 months of the 2 years, 1628, across the 4 products.
Hello, my name is Gerd Schöffel and I'm a product expert in SAP Analytics Cloud Planning. Today I want to show you 2 new features for the multi-actions that we will ship in the current QRC. First of all, I will show you how multi-actions now also can be executed via an API. So this API can be used in analytical applications, including the new optimized story experience. With this API, you can get the parameter values of a multi-action. You can set parameter values of the multi-action. You can execute the multi-action either in a synchronous way or also in the background. In case you have executed the multi-action in the background, there is an event that gets triggered once the multi-action has finished, either successfully or with an error. Let's have a look at the system. So here we have a quite simple multi-action. In our multi-action, we have one data action that copies data from one version, actually the forecast version, to a second version, the plan version, and also reevaluates the data by a certain percentage. This percentage is not a fixed value, but it should be entered by the user. So here we have a factor, a parameter, and that's the reevaluation factor. And as a second step, we also publish our data. So quite simple multi-action. Now let's have a look at a story where we use this multi-action. So this is our story. We see the table. So this is our forecast data, our plan data. And here we have a button that executes the multi-action we have just seen. Right next to the button, we have an input field. So this is the field for entering the reevaluation factor. Let's just enter 10. That means the data should be reevaluated by 10%. Let's have a look at the script that's executed. As you can see here, first of all, we get the value for the reevaluation factor from the input field. We have to do some conversions, and then we can set this reevaluation factor in our multi-action parameter. Then we execute our multi-action, and last but not least, we refresh the story so we see the result of our multi-action. Let's just go ahead and run our story. This is our story now in runtime mode, and let's execute our multi-action via the button. Sorry, I still have to change the reevaluation factor to 10, and let's run the data action and the multi-action. So now the data is being copied from the forecast version to the plan version. 10% get added, and the story is refreshed, and as we can see here, exactly the data has been copied over and 10% have been added to our data. Now let's have a look at our second feature. And the second feature is the new step type master data load in multi-actions. So far it was possible to have a step to load fact data in a multi-action. Now with this release we also provide a step for loading master data into our model. Let's again have a look at the system. Now let's first of all go to our model and have a quick look at our model. So this is the model we are using, and let's have a look at our master data. We have here the product group, and currently our product group contains an unassigned plus 4 more meaningful product groups: juice, water, cola, and iced tea. What we also have here in our model is a load job that's loading master data from a BW system into this public dimension. So these are our pre-configured loads. Let's have a quick look at BW, what the master data in BW is. And here we can see the dimension we're loading from has a new product group, which is for beer products. Now we want to load that data with a multi-action into our model. Let's go to the multi-action designer, and I have already prepared a multi-action, and let's add a step for this fact data load. So we add an import step, so that's load master data. And here I have to switch to the option import master data. I have to specify the model, which is the model I just showed. So this is our model. Then we have to pick the dimension we want to load to, which is product group. And finally, we have to pick the correct load job. This is the pre-configured job. That's all we have to do. We can just save our multi-action. And let's have a look at our multi-action in action. And so this is a story where I'm using this multi-action. So as you can see here, I have a table that's showing all existing product groups in our system. As you can see here, it's set to unbooked data, and this is why we see an entry here for the not assigned. And now let's just trigger the multi-action. What's happening now? The data is loaded from BW into our model. We have the new entry for the beer products, and then this table will refresh and we will see a new master data entry here in our unbooked table. Still taking a little while. And the multi-action has finished, and we can see our new product group that has been loaded from BW. And this completes my demo. Thank you very much for listening.
Hello, I'm Jeanne. Happy to be here to share with you the latest plan news for the Microsoft Office integration topic. First, in this release, we will introduce a concept of checking overlapping content, which means that now we are checking if one table is overlapping another one, or if a table will overwrite potentially an external Excel formula or any data in the worksheet. With this, we open the possibility to have different tables from different models or from the same model in the same worksheet then. Next, we also want to introduce really important feature about formula, which is key in Excel. Then attached to our add-in table, inside it, it will be possible for the end user to create his own calculation, insert it in a row or in a column directly in the add-in table, and of course after the formula creation, keep it after refreshing the data. Any type of Excel calculation can be then created, and also a specific format can be applied on the results. As example, it can be a percentage or a numeric value. The next one is an improvement that we have made for the get data formula. The idea here is to avoid the prerequisite to define first a table in the worksheet. Let's see directly a demonstration of this feature. With this release, we are improving our custom formula, the SAP Get Data function, adding the capability to point directly to a data source. Then, creating a table is not a prerequisite anymore. As soon as you have added your data source and select it in your report, the Get Data formula is created automatically. We retrieve a new concept of alias, which is attached to the data source. Of course, I can add new filter based on my dimension from the model. Here in my example, I will select the region and the region North America to display different numbers. To get the data updated, on the filter side, I can see the region applied, and now I need to refresh the data function. Then I can see different number with the region filter applied on it. I have prepared a nicer example in the worksheet 1, where here we retrieve a different data source alias because it's a different data source. And of course, the concept of the data pointing to a data source has been also applied to the other formula, like the get dimension filter, where you can also enter the alias as a parameter in the formula. If I change the account directly from the report, clicking on the pencil here, I can change the account and select now the gross profit, the complete node, and of course I need still to refresh the data, and I have created a shortcut here to click, and when I click on it I can see all my data refreshed by product.
Thanks for watching. Hopefully our demos have helped you leverage the latest features in SAP Analytics Cloud in your organization. Remember to leave a like on this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with everything Analytics Cloud. We are excited for what's to come in 2023, so stay tuned and we'll see you next time.